So it seems to me that in the past couple months or so, at least since I've been heavily into fountain pens, Jinhao has really upped their game in the fountain pen market. Honestly, when I first bought fountain pens, a lot of the first Jinhaos, I'm talking about the Jinhao 601, 599, and even an X450 that I bought, were pretty much trash and I used to throw them away. But recently, especially with the introduction with the Jinhao 992, their game has been really strong. In fact, this Jinhao 992, a lot of people have been talking about because it's been such an amazing pen. So they came out with this new pen about a few months ago. You can get this one clear, I believe in a sort of coffee caramel colour, and a green transparent colour. And I believe that this is an amazing writer, especially if you're new to fountain pens. Maybe don't worry about getting a Jinhao 599 or a Jinhao X450. Maybe this is probably one of the pens that you might want to gravitate towards if you're looking for a smaller grip. And for $2, and obviously if you don't want to spend too much on a fountain pen, this might be a really good option to look at. But first, as always, let's jump into the dimensions of the pen. So the specs of the pen is 13.7 centimeters capped, 12 centimeters uncapped, and 14.8 centimeters posted. Now the grip is about 8 to 10 millimeters, and its weight hovers around about 14 grams. Now in terms of being comfortable to hold, this is probably one of the more comfortable Jinhaos that I've gotten. There's no fake plasticky grip that you get on the X450. It's very smooth, it's tubular, and it's not the thickest grip in the world. If you want a thicker grip, go for a Jinhao X750, but it's really comfortable. On the side of the pen, there are going to be threads, and depending on your grip, you are going to be resting your finger on the grips, on the threads of the pen. That being said, these are really smooth threads, so I can write with this for ages, and it doesn't feel like I am actually digging my hands into the threads. A problem with other pens. So this pen, really comfortable. Its length is alright, and I think most people should be able to hold onto this pen. Though one thing I will criticize it for is when you post this pen and you actually put it on, it feels like it's pretty secure, though after a while it will sort of work its way off. So you really got to push the cap of the pen onto the back of the pen body to make sure that it's properly capped. Another thing that I'll point out is that with a lot of plastic pens, sort of human slime builds up on the grip of the pen and makes it really slippery. With this, not so much. I don't know why, but it hasn't been getting very slippery even after using it for quite a while. The body, as you can see, is clear plastic, and clear plastic can pick up scratches, though I've been using this every day for quite a few weeks now, and it's pretty resistant to deep scratches. Yeah, there are a few light scratches, though you'd expect that with most other clear plastic fountain pens. This one's been holding up pretty well. And one thing that you will notice, hopefully, is this has clear threads, clear plastic threads, sorry, which means you can get some silicone gel, rub it on the threads, and boom, you have an eyedropper, which would be really awesome because this pen should be able to take a pretty large capacity. I'll also say on the note of the threads, if you have a look at the threads, they're about 1 millimeter thick, which is really good, which means that if you happen to put this pen in your back pocket and lean on it, hopefully this pen will take quite a bit of force before it breaks. Other pens such as the Jinhao 599, crappy, awful, thin threads, and they honestly break so easily. So when I see thick threads on a plastic pen, big thumbs up. So let's talk about the nib and how it writes. This pen uses Jinhao's number 5 nib. This is a nib that you'll find on a lot of Jinhao nibs, and this one here is a fine. I'm pretty sure most of the Jinhao 992s that I've seen come in fines. I'm not sure if there's any mediums, but if there is, well, there you go. This one is a fine, and it's closer to a European fine than it is a Japanese fine. And I must say, this nib is really good. Considering how mass-produced these Jinhao nibs are, they have found a way to make these nibs really smooth. This one is really nice. It's really smooth, Though one thing that I will criticise it for is its gripping. Now, I don't understand that, but when you try to move it along the page, there is a lot of resistance in the movement, but it's not scratching, so I don't know where that comes from, but that is there. Though it's not an awful writing experience, it's actually alright. The feed is not overly wet, something that I've experienced with other Jinhaos, and it's actually alright. Though one thing I will say is, if you're writing with this pen for a long time, the feed does tend to dry up with wetter inks. I'm talking about Parker and Noodler's inks. It has tended to dry out, which means I just gotta, prime the feed a little bit more just to get it to write. Though I haven't really experienced this with thinner inks such as Lamy inks or Pelikan inks. Like a lot of Jinhao nibs, this nib is stainless steel and it's also pretty stiff, so don't expect much line variation from this nib, and if you try and force line variation, you'll probably spring it. The last thing I'll also say is a fill of ink. This uses Jinhao's regular twist converter. Ink will last about 2 to 3 days.
Alright, welcome to the writing sample of the Jinhao 992 Fine. Now, this is using Noodler's ink, Noodler's Bulletproof Black, and I did say that this pen can sort of skip after a while if it's using thicker inks. I probably should have used this ink, which is, what is that, Lamy Turquoise, but, oh well. If it skips out, I won't be surprised. So, okay, sorry I had to say that wonderful dad joke. Why doesn't the quick brown fox wear khaki? Because he locked the car keys in the car. Maybe I should delete this video. Anyway, so as you could probably see, hopefully see through that writing sample, there was a little bit of skipping involved with that. Wasn't surprised one bit. I have left this pen alone for a few days, as well as this pen, so I sort of did expect that. So I will, it's a bit unfair to prime the feed at the moment, but because I'm about to do this lovely test, the wetness test. Now this is not coated paper, this is somewhat absorbent paper. I'm not using Rhodia, but that's not a wet pen. If I prime the pen a little bit, just a little bit, and I try again, I don't get a result that's much better. So it's not the wettest pen in the world. If I try with another pen, maybe that has a little bit more ink. You will, yeah, there's a little bit more ink here, but nothing much more. If you rub it, no. So if you look at the line that it puts down, it is a fine line. If I compare it to this, Parker Vector, spoilers, this is the fine nib here, and this is a European fine on the Parker Vector. And as you can see, very similar widths. There isn't much natural line variation on this nib. Oh, bloody hell. Not much line variation at all, and if you try and push for some, you won't get all that much. Damn, am I really running out of ink? That's embarrassing. yeah, you won't get all that much. It's a really stiff nib. In terms of reverse writing, it's not amazing. Super scratching. And it runs dry. Not because it's low on ink, but it just runs dry in general. Am I forgetting anything? I don't want you guys to yell at me about that. Am I forgetting anything? No. So, there you go.
So that's my review of the Jinhao 992. Honestly, really big step up from Jinhao. I really do wish these pens were around when I first got into fountain pen writing. It would have saved me a lot of heartache buying crappy Jinhaos and having to throw them away. What I could have done with that $10 worth of crappy Jinhaos. I will say big shout out to Bill, thank you for sending me this pen. I honestly, once I received that, I went ahead and bought like 3 others, and they all were brilliant. One of them had a bit of a misaligned nib, so I just cleaned that out, reassembled it, but these pens on the whole, brilliant. So, thanks for watching everyone.